Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
Okay, time to take the old Bigfoot mobile for a ride up to visit Coloma. We're way up on Mount Sentinel. I'm looking across to the other side of the mountain over there. This is Paddy Canyon here, this big drop off. And go back around this way. There's a road bed I walked in on. This is an abandoned one. And more steep downhill. So anyway, there used to be Sasquatch hanging around in this area. We found structures and tracks, and Jeff got video of Mr. Big. That was just right down that way, not very far. And then Forestry figured out where we were at, apparently, from watching my videos, and came up here and wrecked up everything, cut it all down. So I just figured, since I can't get any further currently, I'll explain that later, I would come up here and see if there's any sign of them being up here at this point. So now that I got up here and I set up my chair, and I'm taking a break, and I put my backpack down, and then I'm going to go walk around the top of this ridge and see if there's any signs of it. Generally, they're over on the other side over there. Over there. That way. So that's where I'll be going. You can see the haze in the air from the forest fire smoke blowing in here. Yeah, this is really steep. really, really steep, and it drops off more steeper from here. So I'm all set, getting ready to grab my tape measure in case I find some tracks or anything. Don't forget that's always on your list of things you need to go bigfooting. You got to have a camera. You got to maybe have a backpack to carry all your extra stuff with. You got to have tape measure. And you might want a camp chair. And in case you find anything that you don't know what it is, if you got a copy of Searching for the Unfindable, My Quest for the Arkansas Bigfoot by William Lunsford. And you just go reference it and see if what you found is in his book. From. Guess what I just found? I think there's still some Bigfoot up here. Let's go check it out. Let's see if the Biggies built this. Interestingly, the other stuff that they had here, you could actually see it from that abandoned access road. So when the rangers came through here, they could spot it and take it down. This is not visible from there. Did some humans make this? See if we can find any signs of tool work. Oh yeah. If the humans didn't build it, they'd been a-using it. So, we got signs of humanish activity here. So again, yeah, even if the Bigfoot did build this, yeah, unless they're collecting goodies from the humans, it looks like humans been using it. Somebody's hippie hut. Maybe the hobbits live here now. Well, I'm gonna continue on to over the other side of this ridge is where they had big structures built, so we need to go over there and take a look. Here we are, far side of the ridge. They cleared this back some too. The wood line pretty much came right up to the edge of the ridge here earlier. So they've gotten rid of some of that. Some of the underbrush. Let's walk further down here and see what we can find. Lots of mountains. Yeah, I'm way up here. way up here. Again, over here on this side, it's all been cut way back. There used to be like a massive X structure right about here. That's gone. So I'm going to go this way a little bit further, and then if I don't see any signs of them, I'm going to figure they just relocated somewhere else. This might just be a human track because of the size of it, but the front end looks like toes. So you guys think you can see it pretty good, I would think. Toes? Looks like a track. It's not very big though. Only about a foot long. So probably a human track. Although that front end does look like toes dug in there. So I don't know. Could be a Juby too. So this is all private property down here. This isn't part of the park. So you gotta wonder why they would go to all that trouble of cutting back all this stuff on these steep hillsides. What's the purpose? They're not logging all the logs out of here. They're just, I mean, this used to be like a jungle. You couldn't see into it. It's like somebody decided they wanted to open the field of view for some reason. Very interesting. He's got a bull in a pen over that way, but that ain't nowhere near over here. That area's all fenced in. There's no cows wandering around over here. And as you could probably tell, you go down there, there's a trail that goes down that way. And if you go down to the bottom of the canyon and then go that way, excuse me, there's another trail that goes up the ridge on the far side. And that's probably where they're hanging out most of the time now. So, yep, looks like they pretty much ruined this area for any kind of regular activity here. But yeah, I haven't been up here, and it was 3 years ago that me and William and Eric were up here to shoot the comparison video for Mr. Big. That's on the other side of the ridge over there. And I haven't even been up here since then. So it does not look like they're hanging around up here very much, if at all. So let's go back over to my backpack. Okay, time to consult the Tome of Bigfoot Knowledge and see what it says about decoy teepee structures. Looking for information about decoy teepee structures, which I didn't find. There goes their early warning system. You can probably hear that in the background. Alright, right up at the top of the mountain. Summit Camp Duke time. Let's read a story. William Lunsford says, about March the same time, one rainy morning in 2012, my wife Cindy and I were driving through Miller County, just passing the time. We were near Falk and had been looking for land to buy for a possible new home site. Having nothing else to do and all day to do it, we decided to go to a nearby Bigfoot hotspot, a place popularly known for being an occasional hangout for the nomadic giant. And we had a raven over here raising a ruckus. It's their early warning system. While taking a quick restroom break between cloudbursts as I stepped out of the truck, I heard the creature's familiar sound exploding off in the distance. After also hearing the ear-splitting rant, Cindy remarked how that sounded like an ox, a vintage description used by many who have heard its call. The next 15 minutes had us glued inside with windows cracked open, listening to the monster's rant and paying extreme attention to make sure the distance between us remained constant and not closer. After the rain had ended, a skidder moved into the wooded track for some logging, ruining the glade's natural tranquility. For the next half hour, as the engine revved, the monster would imitate the equipment's roar and sound off. Its rage wasn't for amusement, but appeared to be a tactic of threatening, protest, and intimidation, trying to convince the crew to leave and expressing to all his displeasure at the equipment's presence. And that raven's really bad. It would only be a short time before the same type of experience would repeat itself near a community called Bright Star. My good friend Joe owns a fleet of timber hauling trucks, and this early morning he had placed one of his logging crews about 4 miles away for some clear cutting. Even though we were close fishing buddies, we had until then held opposite opinions about the existence of Bigfoot, with me being a knower and him being a flat-out denier. To his credit, he was open to admitting their existence if he ever sees one. Narrowly avoiding having to eat a dinner of his own words, he came pretty close to living out that statement that day. The evening before, the logging equipment had been pre-placed at the job site on the property of a prominent Texarkana doctor. They had arrived before sunup, hoping the early start would allow them to finish and have some extra free time in the afternoon. At 5:15 a.m., Joe received a frantic phone call from his crew foreman about an unrecognized disturbance at the location. There was some kind of animal down there, screaming, growling, breaking limbs, and basically ransacking the forest, felling many trees. It stomped along just out of sight around where they were huddled next to their vehicles. Their headlights, which they had turned on for Dutch courage, were not having the desired effect. No one was leaving the safety of the group to mount their equipment. They had never experienced anything like that before, and were more than a little bit frightened. The foreman questioned Joe about what he thought it might be and what they should do in the meantime. Now, it appeared Joe then remembered a conversation about Bigfoot he'd had that previous summer. I had asked him about any activity on a deer lease he had joined, which was adjacent to the one that I had been a member of at McNabb. I had also specifically mentioned Bright Star as a location where I had gotten activity during my research around there. Staring at me over the tops of his glasses, I had gotten only that look in return. Now in desperation, he responded to his foreman that even though he didn't know Bigfoot supposedly lived out in that area, the crew chief then remarked something to the effect of, if that was true, then that is exactly what it was. Because whatever it happened to be was big and mad and determined to keep the men at bay, or make them go away. Both men allowed the crew to wait until after daylight to begin working, hoping their unseen protester would just tire of his shenanigans and leave the area. Just after dawn began to break, they got their wish and the noises stopped. Their anonymous detractor or detractors left without giving them even a glimpse of whatever had raised the ruckus and put up such a fuss. In from college the next week for spring break, after being told of these incidents, my son decided he wanted to go down there. Hearing the details of all the goings-on, he resolved for us to make the trip, if it hair-lipped every dog in Arkansas to do it. We headed to the spot where my wife and I witnessed the acoustics, and I parked my truck in the only space available, a dried clay mound on the side of the road. Just after our voices broke the silence, a loud, crisp knock was heard 50 or 60 yards away. So we watchfully began our hike down a fire break towards a cross trail about a mile from our parking spot. Because there's such a multitude of critters in the southern Arkansas swamps that can hurt you, it's beneficial to your health to keep your head on a swivel. Shortly after we left the truck, it paid off. We were again treated to another example of arrogant disrespect spring fever draws out of the local animals. Out of nowhere, barely 100 feet away, a wild boar of close to 300 pounds bulldozed his way into the middle of our clearing. Stopping, he arched his head toward the ground, the ridge of hair on his back standing straight up like a mohawk. With his eyes locked on us, he began popping his razor jaws together like a chef does his knives before he carves a cut of meat. I told Reese, "Find a tree, we got company." Having not made myself clear, he began looking around for another person he thought might be approaching. Not seeing anyone, he asked the obvious, "Why do we need to hide in a tree?" And William replies, "We're not going to hide from anyone. It's not a person. A big old hog just stepped out of the brush, and he's blocking our trail," I explained. "Well, he'll have to wade through flying lead to get me," he boldly asserted. Excited to see his first hog in the wild, he overconfidently just stood there, defiantly sure his 12-gauge was its equal. That actually wasn't a bad idea. Hogs do not have the poor vision they're rumored to have, but tend to react to movement as evenly as they do to smell. Finally satisfied he'd established his dominance, the boar just turned and trotted off into the brambles. Now, William says I hadn't walked a mile for nothing, so I skinned my .44 pistol, while Reese removed the buckshot from his shotgun and jacked a slug into his chamber. We headed onward and came to the pig's entry point into the thickets. We heard him rustling in the underground, growling at us, like a bear or a panther. My first time to witness that from a hog. Reese suddenly had a brainstorm, or an epiphany, as he likes to call them. Quote, "Do a Bigfoot call and see how he reacts," he offered. What the heck, I thought. There's no reason not to. In the woods by ourselves and no one else down there to alert or disturb, I threw caution to the wind and let out a yell resembling a dull saw blade in a hard pine knot. The hefty boar and 6 more hidden porkers took off away from us like their tails were on fire and kept running until we couldn't hear their hooves shuffling anymore. There wasn't a doubt they had recognized the mimicking roar as quickly as a teenage girl does a text alert. I left unsure whether the knock we'd heard at our arrival was about us or the boar we just encountered. I was definitely going to come back soon to try and find out. But one thing was certain. Reese was not going to be the only one wielding a shotgun as a gift for these hogs. Okay, I'm back. Took another hike. Found something cool. Show you guys that after this. Just figured I'd read you one more story here. From Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. And Book 2 is now out, so if you don't have that already, get yourself a copy of it. This story interests me because I had something similar happen to me, but I'll tell you that one next. The Pine Cone Throwing Beast. Wyoming, 1972. While at Wild River Range in the Shoshone National Forest, fish and game biologist John Myanzinski, who works for the state, happened upon a very intense Bigfoot encounter. John had been tucked away in his tent after a fine evening of eating some bacon, beans, and a fresh half pot of coffee. The time had gotten away from John, as he was poised for a good night's sleep, with the next day's planned event of getting up early and trying to snag a few trout from the crystal clear river that ran through the range. The moon was high and bright, and John figured the time to be close to midnight when suddenly he heard a rough-sounding grunt and a shadow move up alongside his tent. The shadow appeared to be moving slowly and was lower to the ground when the movement stopped. Mr. Myanzinski raised his right hand and smacked at this animal through the tent wall, while yelling and shouting rather loudly at this apparent bear paying him a good night's visit. The smacking at the animal and shouting out through the tent seemed to ward off the bear, but only by a few feet. After a few minutes, the creature returned 2 more times up close to John's tent. The third time, however, was much different. The body or shadow that loomed close to the ground was now standing upright on its legs. The image cast in the shadows was not wobbling like a bear. It stood firm and taut. This was no bear, John thought aloud. Then he struck out towards this creature, striking it through the tent, when suddenly an arm covered in hair came crashing down on the top of the tent. Just before the tent collapsed, John noted that at the end of this hairy outstretched arm was a human-shaped hand, and certainly not the paw of a bear. Distinctly, there appeared to be 4 fingers and an opposable thumb. This was no bear. The crashing down of the tent seemed to ward off this humanoid-type intruder. After John got out from beneath the tent, he stumbled over to a still-lit fire, sitting in an upright position with a firearm within his reach. He drifted off to sleep again. I don't think I'd be able to. John was awakened by the sounds of something hitting the ground all around him. Rather quickly, he noted that the falling items were pine cones. After realizing that the closest pine tree was several yards away and there was no breeze in the air, John realized that someone or something was actually throwing these cones at him. John continued to look from tree to tree when he finally found his nemesis. That tall, upright figure indeed was tossing out pine cones in his direction. Whee! Having had enough, John slowly started to walk down the trail and away from what he today believes was a Bigfoot. John did report this to the local DNR in the area and was pleased to find out that this was not the first type of strange activity to be reported in the Shoshone National Forest. Pine cones. Getting pine cones thrown at you. Pine cones and pebbles and twigs and, things like that gets reported a lot. And when I was a kid, I was out rabbit hunting, and I had my nice Ruger 1022 rifle with 4-power scope. And I was planning on running into a lot of bunny rabbits because I had the 10-shot magazine in it, all loaded up with long rifle. Woohoo! And it wasn't having much luck that day. And I was wandering around trying to find rabbits, and finally, mid-afternoon, I decided to take a break. There was a nice little glade there, and I just decided to plop my back down next to one of the trees, sat on the ground, reached in my little pack that I had with me, pulled out my bologna sandwich that I had made that morning, and sat down and started happily munching away on my bologna sandwich. Now, at this point, something hit me on the head. And I looked down and could see what it was and kept eating my sandwich. And shortly afterwards, something else hit me. Again, it was in the upper body, not in the head. And this time I could see it was coming like at an angle. It wasn't dropping out of the tree. But again, being a kid, not knowing much of anything about Bigfoot, I just figured, oh, squirrels are throwing things at me. The squirrels want me to go away. I'm surprised I haven't heard them chittering at me, but it has to be squirrels that are throwing things at me. What else could it be? And it wasn't until a long time afterwards that I really thought about it and went, wait. Like 3 or 4 times it threw something at me, and a couple times I saw what it was. The last 3, time number 3 and not time number 4, they were acorns. I was sitting in a grove of pine trees. There's no place for acorns to come from, but somehow something's lobbing acorns at me. Yeah, that was pretty peculiar. So again, pine cones, acorns, rocks, twigs, if they just want to keep continually annoying you or get your attention about something, that's one of the ways they have to do it. But before we run out of light, right over here behind where I'm filming, straight in between this big tree and that big tree, if I look over there, hold on, I'll bring you guys over here so you can see what I'm looking at. Believe it or not, down in there where we can't quite see it from here, there is what definitely looks like a structure. So let's walk down there and take a look at it. How gnarly is that ancient root ball? It looks like some kind of a spooky Halloween sculpture, eh? Okay, what the hell is that? These are just fallen trees. Nothing to write home to Mom about or spend more than a couple seconds scanning. What is that? Somebody was digging. Yeah, all this stuff's just been leaned against it. Let me get back a little bit here. Get a better view of it. Need a little passageway here. There's another big ancient stump with the gnarly roots. But again, same thing on this side. All kinds of stuff piled up against it. Alright. Somebody piled this up here for some reason, because this is sure as hell not natural. So, just in case it actually is the biggies, leave them some goodies. And we're going to start hiking out of here. We are running out of sun. There's that other big gnarly stump. So you got this one on this side, facing that way. And then you got that one over on this side, facing this way. And right in between, structure. Interesting. Probably no correlation. But just in case, thought I'd point that out. As you can tell, sun's going down, but we're walking up. Going for the walkout. We're just going past the side of the mountain where that big structure is. Wait till we get to a good spot where you can see it pretty easy. I should be able to see it from there. Okay. You can see sunset be happening. So I'm just gonna hike on down the mountain back to the Bigfoot mobile, and I'll maybe film a little bit of the hike on the way down too. How's that sound? This used to be a lot worse until they cut it back. You couldn't even see like 10 feet into it practically. It's still fairly spooky. How about that? Some pretty spooky stuff. And there we go. Better look at that. You guys hear that? That's right, absolutely nothing. Alright, time for me to walk out down the trail. We were way up there. It's a lot easier walking downhill than it is walking uphill. Mostly. I can see the Bigfoot mobile from here. We're getting close. So there's limits to how fast I can boogie down a mountain, especially if I'm carrying a camera with me trying to film. There's the Bigfoot mobile. And we are back to the Bigfoot mobile. All right. Nice brisk little walk there. Hope y'all enjoyed it. If you like shows like this, let me know. Give me feedback. I can make more shows like this. Or if you just prefer the usual sitting in the studio doing interviews format, or what exactly it is. Helps get feedback from you guys on what you enjoy. But yeah, this was kind of again, Summit Camp Duke as opposed to Base Camp Chris, where I go up to the top of the mountain where the Bigfoot are, trying to find some signs and structures for you, and then after that, read you a Bigfoot story or two. So anyway, sorry about the moving the camera around thing here. Hope you guys had a great time, enjoyed the show. Again, like I said, leave me some feedback, let me know, and I'll see you next. Got visitors, not just one. How are you? Did you come over to visit today? Do you want some munchies? the munchie patrol coming through, eating all of the leaves that fall on the yard. Well, ain't you a good-looking young guy? Yeah. Mr. Munchie. Unfortunately, I gave all the apples that I had to the Sasquatch a few days ago, so I don't have any apples for you. I'm going to see if I can find anything. It looks like you guys got plenty of grass to eat, so who cares anyway, right? There's the local lawnmowers. Yep. Gangs of bucks in Montana. And hey, Sushi. How you doing? So she's having fun watching them too. Okay, time to take the old Bigfoot mobile for a ride up to visit Clearwater. Is riding shotgun. There he is. In all of his beautiful orangeness. Looking good, buddy. He just got done eating. He stopped so he could munch down a little bit. And we're just going to head back out again. Okay. I'm at the parking lot. You can see me pretty well, but not the parking lot so much. But when you see it, there you go. Midday. Got a few vehicles up here. And I'm getting ready to go up that way. So, heading on up the mountain. Get back with you guys when we get up there by the top. I'm up near the top of the mountain now. There's some guy up here walking his dog. He went past me as I was walking up. And he's going kind of the same direction I wanted to go. So letting him and the dog get far enough ahead of me that they can't see where I'm going. And I'm going to cut back around them and go up the other side of the ridge where there isn't a road. And hopefully they'll just turn around and go back out again. That's the plan anyway. As we're going. That over there. Let's go check it out. There's the other side that I didn't show you guys yesterday, or I mean the day before. bunch of wood piled up. Well, now that I'm up here and I found the teepee, I'm going to go walk over to where that other structure was and see if they found the apples that we left for them. Head over where that other structure is. I'll walk down there and take a look and see if they found the apples that I left them. May not look like it, but this hill is steep. You hold the camera level here that you're looking at. And it looks like I can see him from here. You see him? See them red spots down there? Those are apples. They did not find them. There's something weird looking down there. It's a stump. That one stump that was up here yesterday, it doesn't seem to be there. Where'd that one go? I shouldn't say yesterday, day before yesterday. You can hear the thunder. Got a storm rolling in. So I'm going to get back up to where the teepee and my gear is here. The far side of the ridge, they're doing the same thing, cutting up everything for some reason. They should try and do that some time of the year other than the fall when everything's tinder dry and they're making giant bonfires for everything to start on fire. So that's incredibly stupid. Thunderstorm rolling in, being on an exposed ridge line. This isn't a good place to be. So I guess I'm not going to be able to do any more filming today. But give you one more view of that. The really cool teepee. And I'll come up here later on this week and record a couple stories. See you then. Back down at the parking lot. Most everybody's bailed. We get a lot of these storms where you just get high winds and lightning and thunder and then it doesn't actually rain. So I didn't so much leave because I thought I was going to get rained on. But I'm sitting on a friggin' ridge line on top of a mountain. Great place to get hit by lightning. So I decided that I'll just abandon ship for today. And I'll come back and get a couple more stories taken care of. I got some really good ones I want to read to you guys. And then relate to things that happened to me too. So anyway. You can probably hear in the background non-stop thunder. So yeah. And hey, Thursday, and I am up in Coloma. Got Johnny with me, and we're taking a look around down below us there. There's another fence, and that's where the fence line is, where Johnny got that one peeking at him between two trees. So we're gonna go down there and try and find that exact spot. Meanwhile, Johnny's walking the basin of the gully down to it to see if we can find, or he can find, any more tracks or anything while he's down there. And I'm just staying on the road bed. He was down here somewhere. Let's go find that spot. We're looking for that spot. Filmed it, so I'm counting on you to try and find that spot again.
I'm trying to find that sign.
Middle of the day, deep, dark, can't see nothing down there. So we're in the general area. We think maybe we're a bit too far down the hill here. I'm gonna go ways back up that way, see if we can find it. And a doobie track right here. Let's see if we push the, I'll shade that a little so you can see it better. Push the moss down with its heel. And there's where the front of the foot comes down that way here. Right in there. So, not very much bigger than my foot is, but a whole lot wider up in front. Spectacular track that Johnny just found. You want to point that out with your little stick heel again? There's the heel.
And the toe.
Yeah.
And it's 15. I just got done measuring it.
He left a nice crater in the ground too. So what was that you were just saying, Johnny?
I just it's 15 from the.
Yeah, no, before that.
It's easy to track once you know what you're looking for.
Well, here in your second consecutive year of actually bigfooting, you don't seem to be having too much trouble finding them yourself now.
Nope.
All right, let's see what else we can find. You guys can see that, I'm sure. Nice crater. Huge crater. Again, about the same size. Mr. 15-inch track here, running up and down the hillside.
A lot of craters down there, that's why I looked down.
And this is, again, right in that area where we had filmed that one peeking between the trees last year. And we've been going all up and down this damn mountainside trying to find the spot. Then Johnny filmed it and I saw it when I was here last year. There was a tree down there that had a marker on it. It's on the video. And we can't find the damn thing. That's what we're trying to use to line up the shot. We also can't find the two trees near each other with a big brushy thing on the...
Going for a drive with Sushi. Up the mountain. Going up to Mount Sentinel. Checking out everything. He's having a great time. Let's see a couple little itty bitty ponds over here. hard to drive and film at the same time. There's another one. There's one.
All right, everybody, just sitting up here with Sushi on top of the mountain. I'll show you where we are in a minute. Right now, excuse me, we got kind of a lull in the wind, so I figured I'd read you something of David Weatherly's Monsters of Big Sky Country. That's where I am right now, Big Sky Country. And for the next one up, David Weatherly, with his Monsters of Big Sky Country, which would be right where we're at in Montana. We got some beautiful orange studio lighting today, thanks to the fact that the sun's going down and it's really hazy, lots of forest fire smoke in the air. So, we start out here in Montana with a bunch of Bigfoot reports from this book. Starting out in the summer of 2001, rancher Steve Kukowski found himself the subject of a rumor that he had shot and killed a Bigfoot on his property at Pryor Creek. Rumors have been going on all summer. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea how it got started, Kukowski told the Billings Gazette. The October 23rd report noted that the story had been circulating for 3 months and that there were different versions of the tale. In some variations, the creature was hit with a vehicle. Most versions indicated the Crow Reservation as the location of the encounter in the body. The tribe had plenty of inquiries about the purported body. As the Gazette reports, quote, Dexter Fallsdown, Director of Public Safety for the Crow Tribe. A guy named Fallsdown is the Director of Public Safety. Okay. Described what he had heard. Quote, a Bigfoot got killed. Some people came and picked him up and took him away, unquote. Fallsdown refers to the conspiracy, quote unquote conspiracy, that government agents showed up almost instantly, bagged the Bigfoot body up, and quickly left the scene. Even the FBI senior resident agent in Billings, Dan Verhaller, was asked about the creature. He told the Gazette, excuse me, that's the first I've heard of it, he said. I can assure you that we are not doing anything currently to hide a body. I do not have a Bigfoot in my evidence locker. The town of Plains in Sanders County was the site of an intriguing 2003 track find report from the Valley Press. The tracks were found off River Road West on 87-year-old Jim Roweeder's property. 2 other men, Dean Peterson, whose young son first spotted the tracks, and Bob Messing, spent 2 hours following the track line into the woods. They lost the creature's trail when they reached an area with little snow and hard, rocky ground. Yeah, you mean like we have to deal with today? Sure. I can understand that. That's all we got. The path of the tracks indicated the creature had emerged from the woods and walked toward Roweeder's shop, where it triggered a motion light. Peterson, who lives next door, reported that at around 3:30 in the morning, he had been woken by his dog barking. Looking outside, about 45 yards from his window, he noticed the motion light on his shop was on. However, there was nothing in view of the light, and no indication of what had tripped it. Peterson, a former police officer from Kalispell, and Messing both agreed that the prints were not hoaxed, noting that it was clear from the prints that the creature's foot had an arch and was not flat-footed. Messing said the prints were like a human's, but slightly squared, adding, there were absolutely toes. It was absolutely not an animal that we would normally have seen out here. I have never seen anything like that. Now, according to Ray Crow's Bigfoot Behavior Volume 2, researcher Don Monroe interviewed a train engineer who spotted a Bigfoot walking alongside train tracks on August 2003 near Twin Meadows and Kalispell. The engineer, Will Vasquez, said the BNSFR, Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, train was heading north when it went around a corner through a rocky area along the river. The black hairy creature was around 8 feet tall. Due to the speed of the train, the sighting lasted only a few seconds, however. On December 30th, 2003, news broke that a Bigfoot had been shot by a police officer in Montana. The term news should be used loosely here, since the story source turned out to be the Weekly World News. As such stories sometimes do, rumors flew. The Montana State Police found themselves having to answer calls regarding the purported dead Bigfoot. Captain Dave Dill, the head of the Billings Regional Office of the State Highway Patrol, solemnly reported, "I can assure you, we didn't shoot a Bigfoot." In March 2004, a woman and her daughter's boyfriend were on the highway above Clark Fork River on the way to St. Regis to pick up her daughter. It was a bright Sunday afternoon. As they crossed the river, the woman spotted an unusual sight. As Lawrence and Ober recorded in Montana Myths and Legends, quote, "I noticed the ice was breaking up around the edges and floating downstream. As we stared over the bridge that spans the river, I looked to my left, as I always do. There's a sandbar that reaches out into the river on the west side, and near the tip I saw a very tall, 8 to 10 foot tall, hairy being, and a much smaller one. It looked to be right at or just taller than the knee of the larger one. The woman reported that the taller creature had long hair that was reddish-brown in color. The other passenger also spotted the creatures, but the pair continued their journey without stopping to observe any further. On the return trip later in the day, the creatures were, of course, nowhere to be seen. The woman had the impression she had observed a parent trying to teach its child something about the water, or perhaps just letting it carefully explore. A veterinarian became a believer in the existence of Bigfoot after her sighting near Missoula. Hey, we're near Missoula, in the summer of 2012. The unnamed witness was hiking with her family on the Waterworks Trail around noon on July 20. They stopped for a quick break and observed a large dark creature on the far ridge next to some power lines. The creature stood completely still for 5 or 10 minutes. The witness stared at the figure, trying to comprehend what they were seeing. The creature suddenly turned, took several large steps, and vanished over the ridge. The witness's daughter was able to capture a photo on an iPhone, and the shot was posted on the BFRO website. The reporting witness told the BFRO rep that she knows without a doubt she saw a Sasquatch. While the photo unfortunately doesn't offer much in the way of evidence, the sighting is nonetheless intriguing. A number of Bigfoot researchers have noted the frequency of sightings and accounts that involve the creature being in close proximity to power lines, and this sighting falls in the same spectrum of such accounts. In fact, I've heard of not just that one, but 2 other accounts of Bigfoot sightings near Waterworks Hill, which is right next to Missoula. You can see it from downtown. You can see downtown from there. And the story he was mentioning, those were tourists that were from the East Coast, and their idea was to walk up to the top of Waterworks Hill and get really spectacular shots of sunup over the mountains, blah, blah, blah. So they were going up there while it was still half dark, and they couldn't really see what they were looking at. And the younger of the 2 that got the probably not very good picture, I haven't seen it, but I heard the actual original report, which was much lengthier. She said that she thought it was a tree, because there were some little pine trees and stuff up there, and when she got up close enough to it, the tree stood up and took off, at which point she started shrieking and grabbed a quick picture and ran the other way. So, yeah, that was a little bit more detailed than what this goes into. On Labor Day weekend 2004, a Bigfoot was spotted northeast of Helena, Lewis and Clark County, on the Missouri River. Ray Crow reports the sighting in Bigfoot Behavior, Volume 3. The witness was fly fishing on the river when a rock came zipping through the air and splashed into the water a few feet in front of him. Apparently the man brushed the incident off, but a few moments later another rock came. As he reports, quote, "I was thinking about changing my flies when, dang it, if another rock didn't come flying out of nowhere, splashing in front of me. Saw old Bigfoot in a squatting position on the bank. It reached down and pulled up a big rock with one hand out of the river and heaved that sucker underarm at me. Man, here comes this rock at me with perfect aim. The witness managed to duck the rock just in time to see the creature grab another one to throw. The man wisely took the creature's hint and fled from the location." In May 2006, a Democrat candidate for Flathead County Commissioner made the news when it was pointed out that he had reported an encounter with Bigfoot. Don Avery, a former administrator for the county, county detailed his experience in a January 2005 blog post. The post, now removed, recounted his sighting of a Bigfoot in Washington state in the early 2000s. According to Browning's Glacier Reporter, Bigfoot activity was kicking up on the Blackfoot Reservation at the beginning of 2006. The March 2 edition of the paper ran a story about Brooks Schilt of Kiowa Camp. Schilt took his kids out on New Year's Day in 2006, and the group discovered tracks that measured 18 inches long and 10 inches wide. Schilt said the stride was about 39 inches. According to the newspaper, quote, "I took my kids for an outing on New Year's Day," said Bruce Schilt, who lived near Kiowa Camp in the Blackfeet County. "I took them up Cutbank Creek to play. We were on our way home, but we drove up toward the mountains by Grandpa's Lake. Tony Ray found a footprint. We came back and took pictures and took them to Fish and Wildlife, and they checked it out. The kids had discovered a line of 30 to 40 large tracks in the snow. Quote, "The footprints looked like barefoot human footprints, but they're about 3 times as big," said Schilt. "They're frozen in the mud up there." Gail Skunkap, director of Blackfoot Fish and Wildlife, investigated the scene and spoke with Glacier reporter John McGill. "I've never seen an official document as to whether Bigfoot exists or not," he said. "But I've also not seen an official document saying that there's ever been an inquiry to anyone by Bigfoot." On the tracks discovered by Schilt, Skunkap said only one looked like it might come from something unusual, but his department is taking no chances. "People are calling and asking if I seen one, should I shoot it," he said. Now, Skunkap told reporters that many of the calls were from concerned citizens, asking if Bigfoot was living around their homes and asking what they should do about the creature. Skunkap stressed that shooting it was likely unnecessary, since there are no reports of the creature attacking humans in the area. "I'd say if you see one, don't shoot it, because if it's someone playing a practical joke, you could wind up hurting somebody," Skunkap stated. He further cautioned the tracks could be human. "There are a lot of trappers out with bear track snowshoes now, and there's a lot of pothole lakes up there, and trappers use bear paw snowshoes, but we take all calls seriously and we investigate." The rumors about sightings continue to circulate in the area through the spring and into the summer. Bigfoot researchers from California and other regions journeyed to Montana to investigate, but no further evidence was reported. An anonymous report sent to Bobby Short from a Montana man living in the Swan Mountains against the Flathead National Forest details his sighting of a possible Bigfoot. The report, September 6, 2007, the witness recounts walking with his dog at dusk when he saw the silhouette of what appeared to be a person crouching behind a birch tree. The man called out a greeting, but the figure responded by quickly darting away. Whatever it was, I can tell you it was bipedal, fast, and very hairy, probably around 6 foot tall or so. Another report I was sent involved a boy out cutting wood with a chainsaw in 2009. Reportedly, the boy sensed something in the area and turned around to spot an 8 foot tall creature. The boy said the beast looked like a silverback gorilla. The creature was standing upright, had a human-like face, and a somewhat pointed head. The frightened boy ran away from the creature and reported the thing to his family. There were other incidents around the home, too. The following month, the boy's father had a memorable experience. As the man reported, "It was quite early in the morning, and the sun was just coming over the mountains. I opened the back door and let the dogs do their morning business, and about 50 feet away from our back door, there was a large, hairy, man-like being. The dogs saw it as well and came running back into the house. I stood still on the stairs watching it. I think I was in shock by what I saw. The animal then turned and looked right at me and let out this scream or holler. It was the most frightening thing I ever encountered. The yell struck every nerve in my body. I was so scared it instantly made me cry." The witness had a classic fight or flight response. Reportedly, he had never experienced such a level of fear in the woods, and he was well familiar with Montana's wild animals, but had never seen anything like the creature he witnessed standing before him. He described it as, "The creature was about 7 to 8 feet tall, had brownish-black hair covering its body. The hair was probably 4 to 6 inches long. I would guess it had to weigh 500 or more pounds. When it let out that yell or scream at me, I got the feeling it was angry that I saw it. The face was like that of an ape, but with very human features. I stood frozen to the stairs as it moved off down the hill. The experience probably lasted only a couple of minutes. It walked on 2 legs, and it was no bear." The man was adamant that the creature he saw was not a bear, having been face to face with some of the state's large animals, including bear, elk, and mountain lion. He is confident that what he saw was something completely different. He reiterated the disturbing experience he had when the creature screamed. When it let out that yell, that was what really touched the fear in me. At the September 2011 meeting of the Western Bigfoot Society, Don Monroe spoke about the potential high intelligence of Bigfoot, specifically the theory that the creatures sometimes braid the hair of horses. And if you want to see examples of that, you can see them in the Mid-America Bigfoot Museum, the Nebraska Bigfoot Museum that Harriet McFeely has. At the September 20,000, we already read that. Monroe related an account from an equestrian woman in Montana who claimed that younger Bigfoots who had smaller fingers were primarily responsible for the braids that appear on the horse's manes. According to the group's meeting minutes, the report stated that braids range from simple 3 strands to more complicated ones similar to a French braid, and they're tied off with a tight hair knot. Yes. While there are occasional reports of horses turning up with their manes mysteriously braided, the idea that Bigfoot is the culprit is, at the least, controversial. More Bigfoot news came out of Montana in August 2011, but this was a tragic story of a drunken idiot who tried to make a Bigfoot hoax and was run over by 2 girls from Idaho, so we will not waste our time talking about that one. A man driving between WSS and Checkerboard west of Sutherland Lake on December 2nd, 2012, spotted a Bigfoot along the road moving at a quick pace. As the witness reports, it was about 250 to 300 yards away, and I could make it out quite well. The thing was on 2 legs, had very long arms that seemed to end barely above the knees. Its head was positioned as if a person were sticking their neck out, and it ran while barely moving its arms. It didn't look like it was alarmed, just as if it were just going along its way, heading back into the mountains. In scale to the trees, I'd say it was about 6.5 feet tall. The BFR report on the incident doesn't offer any details on the creature's coloring or features. Joshua Cutchin and Timothy Renner mention an odd Montana incident in the 2nd volume of, quote, Where the Footprints End. The report comes from Brian Duke Sullivan, hey, that's me, a Bigfoot investigator and podcast host who had this experience in 2015. I spotted what I first thought was a tree stump with a pattern resembling a face. I intended to film the stump with my video camera as an example of pareidolia, but then noticed the expression on the stump changed. Now realizing that I'd witnessed a Sasquatch, I elected to leave the area rather than disturb it. There's actually more to that story. I was coming back to my regular camp. I was taking a route that I didn't usually take, and I was going through this tall grass, and then there was a line of trees. And when I came through the line of trees, there's another opening, and on the far side of that is where my tent was, about 70, 80 feet away from it. But when I came through that, there was no trail or anything that way. I was just wood bashing, wanted to go straight up this way and see if it was even doable. The wind was blowing the right direction where he couldn't smell my scent, and it was making enough noise with blowing the grass around that it was covering all my sounds of movement. So when I finally got up to where the wood line was, apparently is when he noticed I was there. And he didn't have time to do anything other than sit down and pretend he was a stump. Now, I had been camping there for a couple of weeks at that point, so I was pretty aware of all the stumps and trees and stuff, or near, within 80 or 90 feet of my tent. And I didn't remember that stump being there, but it did look interesting, and boy, it really looked like it had a face like a Bigfoot. So I went, hey, this is, I just watched a video on pareidolia. This would be fun. I can, film an example of it here. This looks like it's a Bigfoot, but it's just a stump. So I've got my camera on this little pouch on my hip, and I go to reach down to grab the camera, and I turn and look, and the position of the face of the stump has changed, and now the stump is giving me an evil glower. It's grimacing at me. It's hitting me with glower power, and I'm like, oh, that's not a stump. And I don't know if this was mind speak or what, but in my head, it seemed like the stump was saying, nope, I'm just a stump. Well, I wasn't believing it. But on the other hand, I wasn't going to get myself, grabbed by the ankles and beaten against the ground until I was paced, because I was too dumb to take a hint. So I just went, yep, you're a stump. Put the camera back, kept going to camp. The other problem here is if I decided to be, like dumb and make him angry, the road was about a quarter mile behind me, and my tent was right there, and he was right there. So I didn't have much of an option. But this was at the same time that I was camped, and I was doing all of the Mount Sentinel videos, which recently one of my channel viewers, Figgy Figueroa, was looking at one of my old videos and pulled a really good image of a Bigfoot out of it. And the video that she pulled that image out of was shot probably no more than 200 yards away from where this incident that I just told you guys about happened. So let's actually show you her video now. I'll show you the original, and then I'll show you her breakdown of it, because super cool. Thank you, Figgy. You rock.
Push down grass here. Oh well, you guys can see this. So sort of going in one direction. There's kind of a trail. See? Push down grass here. There's some more. Seems to go this way. Yeah, like some kind of a little trail here or something. Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's where it goes to. What a surprise. Still following that trail. And as you can see, some knockdown grass going this way. And then we go that way. It goes into a thicket. Okay. Yeah, being that I'm by myself and have no weapons, I'm going to go in there and take a look. Here again is that trail, and the closer you get to that thicket, the more really obviously there's a trail here. Yeah. Well, let's go see what's over there. Here's to go up this way. Recover that and make some money here in a minute. More trail. Seems to split off a bit here. You got multiple trails. There's probably littler animals running around through here. But anyway, that's what we got going right so far. Heading away from the skeleton tree. Keep you posted. trail led into a whole labyrinth of pine thickets. Even during the day you can't see into the darn thing. And my guard dragon alerted and crawled up on top of my head because something must be behind us, and she saw it. So we are getting out the upper mountain side of this right now because we are near Larch Road, and at least we're out in the open in case there is something around here. I'll get back to you. Alright, we're up by the road here now, a little trail here, and try and show you guys this. Hopefully you're getting to see her. She's scared and crawled on top of my head, and that's a sign to me to get the heck out of wherever it is that I'm at the time. So, which was back in there. And yeah, you just can't see anything in there. There could be anything in there. It's those pine thickets. It's midday right now, and you still can't see in those things more than 10 feet. So, till I got more than one person or a weapon with me, and sorry, no. This is the backside of that pine thicket that I just bailed out of. Yeah, look at that. You can't see anything sneaking up on you in there. So, on the back side of that thicket again. Here's the thicket over there. Yeah. Thicket. Disturbed grass crossing this human bike path. So, looks like yet another trail leading off over here. And goes up this little cut in the bank. Yeah. Little cut in the bank there. Trail goes right across. And back to that way. But that isn't what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you is the fallen tree right next to this front trail, crossing across the human bike trail. Oh, and what's that? Another bone. Somebody marking their trail with bones? Sure kind of looks like it, don't it? More disturbed grass. Trail looks like it goes off that way. Pretty weird. There's my little bitty. Galadriel. She got named by a little girl. Wasn't paying enough attention to her. And so mommy gave her to me. And she she's my little buddy now. Loves going everywhere with me. She's looking at a couple bugs that are over here that she's thinking about going after. But, yeah, she's the one that did the alert and got me to turn around and get out of that thicket here.